I'm your host, Dr. Ren, and today we're kicking off a special two-part series all about lupus. What it is, why it's such a challenging disease, and where the future of treatment is headed. So I am so excited today to have my friend. I think I could say you're my friend, Dr. Rubio. But my friend and a leading lupus researcher who has dedicated his career to understanding and improving the lives of people living with this complex condition. So thank you so much, Dr. Rubio, for being here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Ram. I'm honored to be here. This is such an important conversation that we should have. I'm just glad that we're having it.
Oh my goodness. I am so happy we had it. We've had a lot of fun this summer, really focusing in on lupus and bringing awareness to this condition and sharing within the community everything that's happening in research because we both know we're both researchers. We both know how important the research is in this space. So, before we dive into all the science of everything, tell our audience a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what led you to work in lupus research.
Sure. I'm a rheumatologist and a clinical researcher, and my passion for lupus really began during my fellowship training. Some experts in lupus, so I was able to learn a little bit of my patients' stories dealing with lupus, and then also I dig a little bit into the research arena. I remember that when I was meeting these patients, they were incredibly young, sometimes in their 20s. They were facing serious health issues and challenges from this condition, and that really struck me.
Yeah.
So over the time, I also saw that many of these patients were women of color who weren't always represented in research studies. Yet they carry some of the heaviest burden of the disease. So the combination of the stories from my patient, the scientific challenges, the research that is ongoing, and the opportunity to just to make that difference in this population really drew me into the lupus research. And for me, it's about improving care and equity at the same time.
Yep, exactly. I love that. I think that's why we connect. We work well together because it's all about health equity for us. But lupus is actually one of those diseases that many people have heard of, but few people really understand it. So, could you give me or the audience, us, the basics and what exactly is lupus?
I usually start telling my patients that they have lupus. So I start saying that this is a chronic autoimmune disease. So chronic means that there is no cure yet. We have advanced a lot into knowing a little bit more about the pathophysiology, about new treatments. Basically, we don't have cure at this point. We do have treatments that will help preventing more activity of the disease and more organ damage. The autoimmune disease part is that means that your immune system, that is the body's defense system, it becomes dysregulated. So misdirected and start attacking your healthy tissues instead of just fighting the infections, right? Because of the immune system touches every part of the body, lupus can affect every single part of their body. So we're talking about the skin, the joints, the kidneys, and even the brain in serious cases. It makes this tricky because there are not two cases that will look exactly alike. And you know that some people may have just fatigue and joint pain, while others may have life-threatening conditions like kidney inflammation. So it is often called disease of the thousand faces because it can show in many different ways.
Okay, so it sounds like it's really unpredictable, of course, very serious. And so I guess that's why this disease is so complicated, right? Because it is like affecting so many different parts of the body or could affect. And no one and like when you have the diagnosis, you don't really know what at that time it's going to affect, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, like you said, that there are a couple of reasons, and one of those reasons is that lupus is just unpredictable. The natural history, they just go into flares where the symptoms suddenly just get worse, but there are periods of remission. There is no activity whatsoever. So predicting that it makes it very difficult, and even it makes it more challenging to find a one size fit all treatment, right? So it's just like it's more like a individualized treatment for every single case that we have. And on top of that, like we have other reasons, such as if you have an autoimmune disease like lupus, you can have another autoimmune disease like rheumatoid arthritis or like Sjogren's overlapping. So
Okay.
you may be a little bit confused about the initial presentation, and it may blur the picture if you don't have the expertise to just understand which one it is, right? And lastly, the immune system itself is just very complex. So when it goes off balance, it takes careful, personalized strategies to bring it just back, or resetting that, to kind of like resetting the immune system to bring back the normal immune status.
Yeah, and that, I guess that's exactly why it's like so complicated, because it's different for everyone. It's different for everyone. And so in our communities, especially women of color, it seems to be more common in women of colors. And I believe more severe, right? Would you say it's been more severe? What have you seen in your work?
Definitely. We can see that lupus is more severe in people of color with African American ancestry, Hispanic ancestry, Asian ancestry, American ancestry as well. All these population, they get more affected from lupus compared to white people. They are more likely to develop more serious complications, more aggressive disease. They're more likely to get more aggressive treatment as well. But unfortunately, historically, this group have been underrepresented on clinical trials.
Hmm.
So that's why diversity in research is just critical. We need data that truly reflects all the patients who are living with the disease, can also benefit from the development of new therapies that could work for them as well.
Yeah. And I know we have worked together on a few projects where we've done some virtual events in lupus, right? Like dealing with lupus. And we had so many women of color on that call. We allowed them to share their stories. And a lot of the stories was they were talking about the medications they were using and how complicated it was. And maybe this wasn't working, that wasn't working. And I know one of the things that we share with diverse research now is like that's actually a really good reason to look into a study when maybe your regular treatments are not working for you. Would you agree?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like sometimes they don't have like enough information on hand to make sound decisions, to look for assistance. So that's why we're here and we're doing something like this, just to reach out, to spread the word, to be sure that patients with lupus know that there are researchers, there are caregivers, they're looking for them and they're just trying to help them and try to support them through all this long trip and having the disease and just being affected with the disease. So they are not alone, basically. We have a team here and different institutions across the US that with the expertise to take care of lupus patients. So they just need that information on hand to just be able to look for them.
Now we want to talk more about treatment. Me and Dr. Rubio are all about research and the treatment of these diseases because we want to find solutions for our communities and people who are living with this disease. And so we're going to talk today about current treatments and what is ahead. So, Dr. Rubio, what are some of the main treatments available right now for people living with lupus?
Sure. Thank you again for the invitation. The foundation of the treatment include different medications that basically we're trying just to calm down the immune system.
Okay.
Because let's say that it's on fire, so you just want just to calm down that fire in your body. And we have different medications that will help us achieve that. So we have steroids, the corticosteroids, are often used for quick control of the inflammation, but we definitely try to limit that because of the side effects that many patients will have at the
Okay.
short and long term. Our main pillar or mainstay treatment will be the antimalarials. We have hydroxychloroquine that almost every patient benefits from this particular
Okay.
medication. And then we have immune suppressant medication. So that's when we start seeing more like medications like mycophenolate, azathioprine, methotrexate. They're especially helpful for organ involvement in different conditions depending on the organ that is affected. For instance, the kidneys, the joints, and the skin. In the past decade, and this is great, I'm talking about belimumab and ifrolumab. Those are two biologic therapies that what they are targeting, they're very fancy. So they're targeting specific parts of the immune system, just in specific overactivated inflammatory pathways of the immune system of patients with lupus. And then beyond medication, definitely we're talking about lifetime management. So protecting yourself from the sun, exercising, we have to monitor the blood pressure. Diet, nutrition is important as well. most of the patients are in a different combination of these approaches, tailored to the specific symptoms or the organ involvement that they have.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds so complicated. I'm just sitting here like hearing all these words and names of medications, and I can only imagine if I got that diagnosis how scary that is. And like, I'm like, I don't know anything about these medications. That is so frustrating because, like you said in our first episode, our part one, is that there is no one size fit all type of treatment. So, is research helping to create more personalized options? I think you mentioned this in the first episode, is that personalized options is going to be key.
Oh, definitely. So this is probably one of the most exciting areas right now in lupus research. We have learned that lupus is just not one disease. So because of the complexity, but it's more like a spectrum of immune system misfires. Research is helping us identifying different genetic markers, immune signatures, or even patterns of blood proteins that can predict what kind of treatment might work best for which patient. So there are different drug companies that are doing this right now in collaboration with academic centers, and they're investing very heavily in targeted therapies. Medicine designed to block specific pathways of the immune system to halt the inflammation in their body. So we're moving very close to a future when we just don't do only the trial error medications and we are not able to predict which one will be working for our patients, but actually match the right patient to the right treatment from the start.
Yeah. And that's going to involve like genetics. I know Bristol Myers Squibb is moving, they're one of those companies that you mentioned, moving toward targeted therapies and understanding like the genetics, because that actually goes back into why we need people from all different backgrounds in these studies, because hey, we have different genetics and our immune systems are different, and so the treatments are going to be different, and so more precise treatments. And I think that is definitely the way to go, and not just in lupus research but just really like other health conditions as well, like more precise treatments. I'm so happy we're moving in that direction.
Yeah, exactly. And then we already have a little bit of that with the biologics that are approved for lupus. So that creates a lot of hope for the future. So we're seeing different biologics and combination of different therapies that could control lupus, and they're more effective with fewer side effects compared to the broad immune suppressants that we used to prescribe. Like we still do, but not as often, like methotrexate, mycophenolate. So the diagnostic tools are also getting better. So we're including blood tests that track disease activity more accurately. And most importantly, patients are becoming more involved in shaping the research. So their involvement is extremely important. So how they share their experiences, reporting symptoms to now they have these digital apps and helping us understand what really matters to them. It's not only about just basic science and developing a drug. It's about how that can be implemented in every single patient with lupus. So their voice is extremely important in research.
So speaking of research, because that's what diverse research now. We're all about research. We're all about getting the community involved. I know you're all about research. You're working in that space because you care. And so research, when you're speaking about research, you're speaking about trials. And one thing I've always wanted our listeners to know is that research can't move forward without people who's willing to participate, which is why we are out in the community, right? Both of us are out in the community sharing this research, these opportunities with the community. Now, we don't coerce anyone to get involved, of course, because it is a lot of risk involved with trials, and so we don't shy away from that conversation. But can you tell a little bit more, kind of go a little more in depth about the reason why we need diversity in clinical research and why it really matters in lupus? And I know we've kind of might have like mentioned it a little bit before, but can you go any deeper in helping us understand?
Sure. We already know and we have talked about this that lupus doesn't affect all groups equally, right?
Right, right,
So
right.
we have plenty of data that shows that the severity of lupus can be more in people with African American ancestry, Hispanic, Asian, Native Americans, compared to white population. Mortality is even higher in these populations as well. morbidity the same way. But it is regrettable that through many years of clinical trials, these have enrolled mostly white patients. So there's a gap in research about this underrepresented population. The treatment truly doesn't reflect how the disease behaves in this particular underrepresented group. So we need to include these diverse participants to ensure that the new therapies are effective and safe for everyone. There are different ways that our team works on that. So we have a diverse research team, including myself. I
Okay.
have a Hispanic background,
Yeah.
so we have been able to enroll Hispanic patients in different industry-sponsored clinical trials. So we're trying to build that trust by having a diverse research team to our community. We also have in our team people of our ancestry just to work with us, even African American, and they have that personal touch. They understand patients' culture and they feel that our patient can trust us a little bit more. We also try to stay away of that stigma for the clinical trials that has been going on for years and because of the history, especially here in the South. So
Yeah.
we're trying to educate our patients. We're trying to tell them about the highlights of being involved in a clinical trial like this, but also telling them that this is not like a guinea pig. Actually, we tell them like many of the patients are on a standard of care therapy, even though they are on the placebo arm. We
Right.
also try to educate them that they have a more closer follow-ups and more
Yep.
closer care compared to people in standard of care in the clinic. And yeah, those type of things education more than anything helps them understand about clinical trials, how important it is for them to be involved in these studies. So we're trying to build this trust in the community, not only with the patients, but also local leaders. We're trying to partner with patient advocacy groups. We are partnering with you, with Diverse Research Now, with your Lupus podcast, just to spread the word, right?
Yep.
And just to keep educating more people with lupus and make them feel that research is accessible and can be respectful. So diversity in trials isn't just about fairness, it's about making the science stronger. So this
Yeah.
is just
Ooh, I like
one.
that. Making the science stronger. I
Yeah.
like that. Okay.
So this is just a call for everyone that is listening to this, just to call for action for them to just be more involved and participate with us and with the community in different studies. It doesn't have to be a clinical trial. Maybe it's just a registry or something like
Exactly.
that. So as
Exactly.
long as they can just be involved and they can express their concerns, we would love to hear that.
Exactly. Yeah, no, we tell people all the time. We understand that if you don't want to be in a clinical trial, you don't have to be, right? But we want our community to understand that it's an option, that it's there, that it's here. We can't do it without you. Clinical trials cannot move forward without volunteers who are going to be involved. So we will continue to repeat that, continue to advocate for that in the community as much as possible because hey, that's what we were created for, our organization. So we're gonna stay out there. It's not gonna happen overnight. I feel like you know what I mean? Like our organization, it's a few other organizations and I think the industry, the pharmaceuticals are understanding how to start working in the community because I don't think it was a thing before to come into the community and really have this conversation. But we're out there and we're going to continue to do the work. So thank you so much, Dr. Rubio, for sharing your knowledge, your passion, and your vision for future of lupus research. Now, I wanted to ask you, did you tell us how long you've been in the field, how long you've been doing this research?
Again, thank you for the invitation. It has been wonderful just to talk about lupus and just to talk about different updates about clinical trials, updates about management, and then share our stories with our patients, right? So I'm working with lupus patients since I started my fellowship. It was very lupus focused at
Okay.
that point. So after graduation, I will say like at least 3 years here at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. I'm being a principal investigator in different industry-sponsored clinical trials.
Nice.
Also being site principal investigator in other lupus registries, and then we have a large team of people working on bench research here at UAB, also with different translational and epidemiologic research as well. We're trying just to partner with and collaborate with different specialties like dermatology, now with oncology for these new cell therapy studies. We are part of the LUCIN network, which is the Lupus Community Investigator Network. They bring the expertise of lupus to the community across the United States. And yeah, we're happy to be involved and be part of this field and area that needs there are so many gaps that hopefully we are able to fill in the near future.
Oh man, those gaps. Yeah, no, we definitely want to fill the gaps. Thank you so much, Dr. Rubio. To our listeners, if you are living with lupus or you know someone that is, I encourage you to learn more about clinical research as one of the ways to help advance your care. You can find trusted sources like Diverse Research Now and also organizations like Lupus Foundation of America and Bristol Myers Squibb. So if you want to reach out to us, please don't hesitate. We are here to support you on your journey. And so we'll end the podcast here. Thank you again, Dr. Rubio. And where we bring science and community together, right here. Right here on Voices of Inclusive Research podcast. So we ask that you stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll see you next time.